This topic, you will learn how to define payment attributes. A payment attributes function allows you to define the structure of the accounting entries generated when posting payments. This includes customer and supplier payments, bank charges, and so on. To determine the attribute for the type of payment, there's an account structure options section, which includes three different patterns. There's bank to BP. This option is used when the cash account and the collective account, BP or account, have been posted with movements. This is used for posting on an invoice, credit memos, or for direct bank charges. There's a bank to account. This option is used when the cash account and the payment line account have been posted with movements. This is used for the recording of bank charges in addition to a payment. There's also the account to BP. This option is used when the collective BP account and the payment line account have been posted with movements. This is used for revenue or charge allocations to the business partner, early discounts, late charges, and so on. Now, to determine if the payment attribute is an expense or revenue, you specify this in the Account Signs Options section. You select Payment Sign if you want the expense or revenue sign to come from the Payment Entry type function. You select Expense or Revenue selection if you want the sign to come from the Attributes function. Let's take a look at defining an attribute. Now you're setting up a company and you need to create a payment attribute specific to a USA legislation and company to pay your expenses. To do this, we go to Setup, we go to the APAR Accounting block, and our Payment Attributes function. You can see in the left list are payment attributes that are already created. Now we could use a payment expense attribute from the selection here. However, we want to be able to track this individually, so we're going to set this payment attribute up that way. To do this, we hit New, and then we enter in a payment code. And as mentioned, we're going to select legislation. You have to enter a description and short description, as you can see by the asterisk above each field. To select the company, to make it unique to this company, under Group, you select Company. Active checkbox is when it's ready for use. Under account structure, we're going to select Bank to BP. What this says is that you take the funds from the bank cash account to pay to your BP or your supplier. As mentioned earlier also, we're going to select under accounting sign, the payment sign. What that means is when you create your payment entry type or payment data entry screen for this payment attribute, it's going to take the sign from that function. Next, we select Chargeable. That tells the system this type of payment needs posting validation. To make this unique, we're going to select an entry type, which you're assigning a different document type, and also it allows you to assign a different sequence counter for it as well. And now we're ready to create. Let's also discuss some of the additional fields that are available. Now, if I was to select Bank to Account, you're allowed to use a separate document reference field there, and also their interbank code, which references the type of payment you're directing to the bank, like bank charges. You also can use the accounting code field to select a different accounting code to use to record the transaction to different accounts. You also can select the document type or the entry type, as I mentioned earlier, to assign a different transaction type and a sequence counter to use for the transaction. There's also the prepayment field for prepayment attributes. The early discount late charge allows this field to be available on the line of a transaction to allow discounts or late charges line by line, as well as the total document. You use the tax management section to allow taxes. Now, the amount control section helps to prohibit a discount for going over the total of the transaction by amount or percentage. And finally, after creating the attribute, you're ready to create your payment entry type or your payment entry screen. Now, to do this, to show where this attribute goes, it's still in APR accounting, and you go to the payment entry type screen. Now here, when creating the payment entry, the payment sign, as we mentioned earlier, comes from right here. This would be an expense. As you can see, you can also select revenue or unspecified. The attribute itself goes in the default payment attribute field. And now you know the process for defining a payment attribute and where the payment attribute is used to create your payment entry data entry screen.